it's an issue that most people in the arts community are aware of, the fact that Maeve McGregor is distanced her mother and there is no relationship because her mother's a TERF. So it's well known, and it's something that so many of us have experienced, even with other members of my family. They don't want to discuss this issue with me. And many of the women I work with have lost relationships with brothers, uncles, aunties, or there's just no opportunity to discuss them. So 2 years ago, there was a big write-up in the Sydney Morning Herald about estranged families. And in one short paragraph, the author said that two of the main issues that caused estrangement in families was sexual orientation and gender identity, which I thought was very interesting. I would tend to think that more today, it's less about sexual orientation and about, 500% more about gender identity. So I think there are drivers for why young people are disassociating from their parents on this issue, drivers for why this phenomenon is happening. And I'd just like to outline what I think are the key drivers for this. Firstly, and I'm sure most people will agree, social media. Social media plays a major role in entrenching and provoking hostile attitudes towards people you disagree with, and in promoting this ideology as a reality and truthful. Two, the high levels of mental illness amongst young people. I recall my daughter saying to me some years ago that every one of her friends was on medication for some mental illness problem. And I think this leaves them very vulnerable and very exposed to finding some sort of support wherever they can. And I think that one of the areas where they get this support is through connecting with other like-minded groups or people or tribes. And I think the LGBTIQ tribe is a very big tribe. It's a very influential tribe. And I think it certainly is a very oppositional tribe. I think also the need to conform to dominant cultural narratives exists, particularly in relation to people in the workplace, particularly in the area of media, entertainment and the arts. And a lot of the TRAs are working in this arena, and they're looking for careers in media, entertainment and the arts, just like my daughter. And if you do not comply with this trans ideology, you will lose your career. And I've made this comment to my daughter that I understand the pressures, the social pressures that she could be under, and that if she were to let on in the least where she stands on this issue, if it changes from the dominant way of thinking, she will lose her career, and that's the end of it. At one point, she did agree with me about the Nordic model laws, but she didn't want to talk about it anymore. It was sort of a cut-off. Yes, I see the point. I understand Nordic model law, but that's it, finished. And finally, climate change is creating huge anxiety for young people. And this hooks in once again to the mental illness stuff, but it's an overarching thing. It's climate change and global conflict. And I think the insecurity levels of young people today are through the roof, and I have enormous compassion. And I think this is a major driver. What I find quite sad about this is that, along with all the other rhetoric about, transphobic bigots and, privilege and all these words that they use to describe people who don't conform to their thinking, is that you know, there's also this blame game with our generation. I hear a lot of even journalists and young people talking about this is a generational issue. In other words, the old people are just going to drop off the perch one day and it won't matter. We will prevail. You know, the oldies are going to die out and the right way of thinking will prevail, and we will have, I think, what George Orwell said, when the language is perfect, the revolution will be complete. We will have that state that they so want, and us dinosaurs will have gone somewhere else. So, but I think it's a very frightening world for young people to be looking into the future, and they do need to find solidarity in terms of what they're going to be faced with. And I think that is the really tragic thing, that they're finding solidarity over something so fictitious and flimsy.